Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Dayana Mayfield. I'm the head of content here at Design Files. And today we're back with another live workshop. We have Monique Nicole, the creator and lead business coach of Employee to Designer. Today we'll be diving into her marketing approach to help you book more clients. Welcome, Monique Nicole. How's it going?
Hey, I'm well. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You know, we love diving into marketing. We haven't done that in a while, so I think we are ready for this topic. Before we went live, we were just chatting about like where we live. So I was telling you I live in Monterey, California, and I didn't get a chance to ask you. So where are you located right now?
So I am in Virginia, in Newport News, Virginia. Yeah.
Okay, now I remember. You've been there for a while?
Yeah, I've been here for a while. I grew up here and then, went to school in Europe and moved to New York City, worked in corporate, and then started my design business, all that good stuff. So I'm back home.
That's very cool. Does it get freezing in the winter? The only places I've been in the East Coast were like New York and Rhode Island, and it was so cold in the winter. Is it like that too?
No, actually, ironically, like Virginia is one of those states that it has all seasons. So it gets cold. We get snow every once in a while, a little bit, little flurries. But no, it doesn't get too cold. Not like New York. Like
okay, I could handle that. Let's see. Somebody is saying they don't have any audio for us. Let's see. Could other people let me know in the comments if you are getting our audio, and also let us know where you are from. Let's see. Hopefully we have audio because I can hear Monique and she can hear me. So we should. Okay, so maybe it was just somebody's problem. Okay. So somebody's computer or something is giving trouble.
Okay.
So I was trying to plug in.
We want you guys to hear.
I have. Okay, I'm just trying. Okay, hopefully you could still hear me now that I did that. You can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We are going to dive right into the slides. And as you all know, we love to save some time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to pop your questions in while Monique Nicole is talking. And then when we get to Q&A at the end, we have some questions to pull from. So just drop anything in the chat. And to start us off, we do have a question about if this will be recorded. Yes, this will be recorded. It will be up on our Facebook page and on our YouTube account. So I'm going to add Monique Nicole's slides to the screen, and I will come back at the end for Q&A.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Excited to be here. Happy Thursday, everyone, wherever you are. I'm actually looking at the chat and I can see in the comments, I see some folks actually from Northern Virginia. So welcome. No matter where you are, I'm glad that you're here. So we're going to dive right in. As Diana mentioned, we are going to be talking about marketing. So if you are in a place where you are looking to grow your business or even scale your business to 6-7 figures and beyond, you are in the right place. So let's go ahead and dive in. Today's topic is we're going to be talking about the ultimate marketing system for you, interior designers, and specifically how you can attract clients, build authority, and scale with ease. Now, everybody say, just take a deep breath. When I say scale with ease, right? That should kind of like lift a weight off of you. So let's dive in because I want to share some information with you all that I really do believe is going to change the trajectory of your business by the time we're finished. And so if you're a design professional, and whether you are an emerging designer, meaning you're just getting started, maybe you're a couple years into your business, or you're a seasoned designer, but you are struggling to consistently attract ideal clients and achieve that kind of like that steady 6-figure income or a steady income at all year after year in your business, this presentation is going to be for you. All right. So for those of you who are in the chat, definitely please let me know if at any point you can't hear. I will be looking at the chat just to make sure that everyone can hear and see the slides. So in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to show you how to, one, build a simple but powerful marketing system that runs on autopilot. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is I'm going to show you how to position your brand as a sought after authority in the design industry, and then how to scale smarter and not harder, right? I have this saying that we don't hustle backwards. We want to hustle forward, right? So I'm going to show you how to focus on marketing levers that are actually going to drive growth and move the needle in your business. And then last but not least, we're going to cover how to create a sustainable content and client attraction strategy that converts followers ultimately into paying clients. Because at the end of the day, I hope we can all agree, and type a yes in the chat if you agree with this, that we are in business, right, to make money. We're in business to make a profit. Although we do have like the best, coolest job, I believe, that exists. But at the end of the day, we're still, working and doing what we do and what we love to make money. So, and I see a yes. See, Kristen said yes with the exclamation mark. So, before we kind of dive in, I do want to share just a little bit about myself and who I am, so that you know that I am authorized and qualified to be sharing this information with you. And I'm sure some of you I may know, I may have seen at High Point Market this past fall market if you were there. Or maybe we've crossed paths online or on social media. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Monique Nicole, and I am a former marketing and advertising executive turned interior decorator, and also the creator and lead coach, of Employee to Designer, which is a coaching program that I started back in 2016. So it's been some time. And really what I do is I help designers focus on learning how to transition, build, grow, and scale successful 6-figure and 7-figure residential interior design businesses. So I know that's a mouthful. So basically what I do is I help you engineer your business to create the growth and profitability that you want, to create the lifestyle that you want. I was one of those people where I worked in corporate for many years. I worked in advertising and marketing, and I got burnt out, right? I loved what I did. I was really good at my job. But after a certain period of time, I realized that I wanted more. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that wasn't just putting billions of dollars into the companies that I was supporting, into their pockets, but something that, would create a lifestyle that I loved and that I wanted, while doing something that I loved and that helped people. And so I came across this gift that I had after I purchased my first home in New Jersey. So shout out to anybody who's in the New Jersey, New York area. And I realized that I had a gift and I loved interior decorating. When I bought my first home, it was a no frills. It was a penthouse condo in downtown New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And I basically completely renovated it myself. I didn't know what I was doing, but I enjoyed the process. Okay. So anybody ever had the experience of, working a job and transitioning from that job to now your design or your interior decorating business? You know what that feels like, right? That fulfillment that it brings. So I was that person. And I see Jackie says she's a former marketing pro here as well. Okay, great. So I took all of what I learned from working in marketing and advertising, and I doubled it down on my business. And I was probably one of very few decorators in the New Jersey area that literally was able to replace my 6-figure income on my job within a year in my interior decorating business. And I do believe that it's because I was able to really take a lot of what I had learned and experience and working in corporate and apply it to my business. And so that's what I do today is I help designers and decorators like you guys figure out how do you actually create marketing systems that will drive growth and profitability in your business? Because we do know, right, that 60%, I would say, of what we do, and it might even be a little bit more of that, more than that, is the business side of what we do, right? And then the other 40%, or maybe a little bit less, is more the creative side. And so you have to understand and master both. And so, based on my experience, there's a lot of logos on this slide, but these are a few companies that I've had the privilege of working with and coaching over my, almost 20 years in the game. And this year, actually, if you were at High Point, I was honored to receive and be the recipient of the 2025 DAA Mentorship Award for Employee to Designer. So that was a huge honor. And I love, love, love what I do. So that's just a little bit of background, a little bit of information about myself. And so I'm super excited to be here with you. So let's see. Let me look in the chats. Someone says she's doing that now. Okay, CU 29. All right. So you're using, right, what you know, or maybe what you've learned along the way from a marketing perspective. And that is great. But today I want to help you take it to the next level. So there's this industry problem that I want to kind of share with you guys. And you probably experience this now. And that is that most designers do not have a marketing system. Okay. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot and just raise your hand, just say yes. And you can kind of if you want to do a small yes, if you know that you don't have a marketing system right now. And it's okay if you don't. Okay. And that's why you're here. So just put a yes in the chat if you do not feel like you have a marketing system. And maybe you have one, but it's not the one that you want, or it's not performing and driving clients the way that you know your business needs it. So I just want to kind of get a temperature. Okay. Thank you, Carolyn, for being honest. Thank you, Deborah. Okay. Deborah says yes. Okay. Vanessa says yes. Okay. Well, you guys are in the right place. Awesome. All right. Okay. I like the honesty. Yeah. Because guess what? I didn't have one either when I started. And so what happens is, okay, so Nuda said sort of has one, but not loving it. Okay. Okay. John, he's giving me the cry face. All right. I'm going to take that as a yes too. Okay. So, right. I appreciate that because honestly, you're not alone, right? Most designers, even if you're seasoned, have not had the chance or even just the know-how how to build a robust marketing system. And what that causes is this feast over famine, right? And it also causes this kind of like, I like to call it the hustle over hope, right? Meaning you're just kind of like hustling, trying to keep the clients coming in and keep the business going, but there's really no resolve. And so today I want to fix that for you. And so what's happening right now with most designers is, and put a yes in the chat if you can relate to any of these, and that's that clients typically will come in through a referral. So you might get a client and you do a great job and then they refer someone, right? But just think about the time span that takes. You might have a project and it might last you a year. So that means that you might not get the next client until another year, right? So that affects your profitability and your cash flow, right? So there's no predictable pipeline. You don't have a steady flow, and that can be a challenge. Another thing that happens is that marketing feels overwhelming, right? Because there's no structure and there's no strategy. So you're constantly trying to figure out, okay, how do I write this email? Or what's the next marketing thing that I need to do to drive new clients? And that can be very frustrating. Another thing is that content is being posted. So you guys are on social media, but there's no consistency in inquiries that are coming in. So a lot of times you feel like I'm just spending all this time posting and nothing is coming out of it. Can you relate to that? Okay. So another thing is a lot of times, because there's no marketing system, there's no client journey or nurturing system, meaning you may be getting some inquiries via your website or through social media, but because you don't have a follow-up system, those leads go cold, right? And so instead of turning them into paying clients, they just kind of sit there. And that can be a challenge. And then lastly, a lot of times what I see is that business growth relies on your talent, right? So how well of a designer are you? And hustling, right? Trying to, again, that feast over famine instead of a system that will support your growth, okay? And really kind of drive that growth. So I want you to take a look at some of these images on this slide. So these were very intentional images that I chose. And I want you to type in the chat if you feel like what you see on this slide, like you're all over the place sometimes. You've got upper right hand picture is a whole bunch of post-it notes of reminders of things that you need to do. Or maybe you're in full-fledged design mode and you are working and doing what you love and picking out colors and fabrics. Or maybe you're meeting with an assistant or your team and you're trying to delegate things to get things off of your plate. Or maybe you are at the same time answering the phone and trying to schedule consultations, right? We wear a lot of hats. And I know and I can remember how overwhelming it used to be. And so if you're in this place, I am happy to tell you that I'm going to help you fix this. Okay. So the problem is that most designers don't have a marketing system. Okay. So we're going to dive into, and I want to show you what a real marketing system actually looks like. Okay. So first, it's really a very simple process. Okay. So a reliable design business relies on a marketing system. Okay. So that's the vocabulary we're going to use today. Um, and it's really 3 steps. The first is you have to get good at attraction, meaning being able to create consistent visibility of your brand, of your business, and of you, because you are your brand, that brings qualified dream clients, people who you want to actually work with, into your business through what we call a multi-layered approach, right? So through different traffic sources, which could be organic content, meaning posting on social media, partnerships. So you might be partnering with different companies to get your business in front of potential clients, PR strategies, and also paid media. Okay. So that could look like Facebook, running Facebook ads. Okay. So once you master how to attract your ideal client, the next step is creating that authority, right? Because authority is all about positioning yourself as the expert in what you do. And what I love about our industry is that while we all offer design services, right? We all have our own flair and we all have our own style on what we do and how we do it. So there's no one on this webinar today offers the exact same service. And I can tell you, I've coached hundreds of interior designers, and not one designer who I've ever coached had the same business or their business looked the same like anyone else. So building authority is about really tapping into what's unique in about you and your design style and the service offerings that you provide, and how do you do it the way you do it, right? So it's thinking about how you're going to show up as a brand, right? How are you going to tell your story and the value that you bring? How do you talk about your process in working with you, right? So this all fuels confidence in your clients or your potential clients, and that creates that authority and drives that demand of, to get people to want to work with you. And then the third step is automation. Okay, so once you've kind of gotten your attraction part down, you've gotten your authority down, you're clear on your brand and how you show up every day in the industry, then you're going to work on your automation. And automation is simply streamlining your systems, like you're nurturing your leads, how you book consultations, your onboarding process, your design process, and then how you're going to support your clients as they work with you, all while not burning out. And that's the key. Okay. So this is kind of the beginning of creating your ultimate marketing system. Okay. So let's kind of dive into each phase. So the first is the attraction phase. So this is all about creating visibility without clarity, and not just creating noise, right? Because when you're attracting clients, what typically happens is you're putting yourself out there, right? You're creating your brand. And it's very important to create consistent visibility in places where your dream clients are already. So that could be on social media. That could be having a Google presence. Let me ask you guys, how many people in the chat, just put yes, um, have a Google profile where people can find you on Google? So you have like a Google business profile. I just want to see how many people. Go ahead and put yes if you do, no if you don't. And remember, there's no judgment here. I just want to kind of get an idea. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing some yeses. Great, great. Now, this is good because Google, right, we know is the #1 search engine in the world. So if you want people to find you, right, and a lot of times when someone's looking to hire a designer, the first thing you're going to do is they're going to type in the keywords interior designer and then probably their location, right? So you want to make sure that you have a Google profile. Okay. So making sure that you're where your clients are is important. That could also be like being, having featured on different partnerships or different websites, doing events, hosting events, and things like that. One of the things I used to teach my clients in my coaching programs is that you need to figure out once you decide or figure out who your ideal client is, you have to figure out where they hang out. Where are they, right? And so, for example, if you know you have a very affluent client and maybe in their pastime, they like to visit wineries, right? If you are someone who likes to drink wine, right? That's a great opportunity for on a weekend or on a Saturday, go visit a winery, right? Enjoy yourself, socialize, network, because you just never know you might meet your next client there. So that's just one example of really thinking about how you can consistently become visible amongst your audience. The next thing you want to focus on is creating messaging that speaks to the desires, the frustrations, and the lifestyles of your target audience. Okay. So this takes a little bit of pre work, right? So before you can start attracting your clients, and this is what we're talking about, you do have to do a little pre work of really getting clear on who your ideal client is. Now, I think we did a workshop maybe a couple years ago on that. But if you want to learn more about how to do that, we can talk about that. But you want to be clear on who your ideal client is, because that's going to help you to create that messaging that speaks to their desires and their frustrations and the lifestyle that they're trying to create. Okay. Because when you start to speak the same language of your ideal client, you no longer have to chase after clients. They will find you. Okay. So that's kind of the next step in creating that attraction. The next thing is you're going to leverage your collaboration. So if you have a friend who is a podcaster, maybe they have a podcast, call them up. Say, hey, I'd love to kind of share what I'm doing, my business. Is this something that, you think your audience might be interested in learning more about? Right? Leverage those opportunities to get in front of your ideal clients. Okay. And you can also do this through referrals. So as you are building your client base, maybe you have a client that is, I'll tell you, perfect example. Maybe I have a client that uh, she is a doctor, and I've decorated 2 of her homes. And every time she has an event, she invites me. And just by going to certain events and being around like-minded people like her, who is my ideal client, I get the opportunity to meet other people, right? And other, people in her circle that may be looking for design services, right? And so that's just one way of you tapping into your local network, whether it be a client or a friend or someone a family member, to get in front of your ideal clients. Okay. And then last but not least is using paid media strategically to drive consideration. So we're going to talk a little bit more about paid media, but paid versus organic, right? They're two different marketing strategies. So paid is like when you actually pay to run ads on Facebook or Instagram or wherever your audience is. And it's a great thing because you can get in front of a larger group of people outside of just your immediate network. So using that paid media strategy is also a great way to build your attraction. Okay. All right. So then the next step that we talked about is about building authority. So authority is all about building that trust, right? And showing that you are who you say you are and that you are the right person, the right designer or decorator for that client. Okay, so there's three ways that I like to think about building your authority. So the first is you have to show proof of capability. So you can do this easily, right? By having a portfolio on your website, getting your design projects photographed. Now, I will tell you, I get this all the time. They're like, well, you know, Monique, I can't afford to hire a photographer, right? And you know what? A lot of times my response is, well, you can't afford to stay in business because your business, it has to show, right? Visual. We're in a visual business. You have to show people what you can do, right? You can't tell them the design transformation you can create in their home. It's not the same, right? You have to be able to show them, especially if you've never worked with you before. So creating a portfolio is very important. And even if I remember my first design project, I paid a photographer $750 to photograph that project. And I will tell you, I didn't have it. Like, it was like I was in tears, right? Coughing up that much money. But do you know that investment that I made brought me tenfold worth of income and profitability into my business from getting other design projects because I was able to showcase my capability, the work that I could do, right? And I remember my next design project was like a $60,000 project, right? So you compare $750 to a $60,000 project, right? It's a drop in the bucket. Would you agree? We would say it would be worth it, right? So sometimes you have to think about investments and what's the return on investment and what's that going to bring back to you, right? So showing that proof of capability is all about getting your projects photographed, using case studies to show and share the transformation that you've created for your clients. Before and afters are great. Now, before and afters are not for every designer, depending on what type of design you offer. So, like if you're doing luxury design, that's usually not the best way to go because your ideal clients, they're not necessarily looking for a transformation per se. They have a very clear cut idea of what they want. And it's not like they're going from one thing to another. But if you are working with a certain type of client, that might really attract them, right? So you have to, know what's right for your business. But before and afters can be very powerful. Case studies are really great for more luxury clients. Obviously, having a portfolio is also a great thing. And then people love behind the scenes. Okay, when I first started decorating, it's funny, social media wasn't a huge thing, right? But I was doing behind the scenes. I was filming and I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just videotaping everything. When my window treatment installer would come, I'd tape him and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And people loved it. People soaked it up. And I got so much business from that because people love to understand what your process is. So sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone and let people in, right? Because that creates that proof of capability. The second thing is proof of credibility. So this comes from getting vouched by other people who are well respected in our industry. So it could be, you getting your work published. in a magazine or in a local newspaper. It could be you doing an interview, right, with your local news channel about how you're helping people create beautiful homes in your local city or your town. It could be testimonials that you're sharing on Facebook, so that, or social media, so that it's not just your word of you sharing what you can do in your capability, but people get to see and hear from other people's perspectives, right? And then also documenting and sharing your process, right? There's something about that comforts people when they understand what's going to happen next, right? So, one of the things I want to encourage you, if you're not already good at this, is to practice sharing your process in a very quick, concise, but encouraging and inspiring way, so that people can understand, okay, what is it like to work with you, right? So that's helps, and that all helps build your credibility. All right. And then the last but not least is proof of professionalism. So this is all about creating a brand presence that communicates clarity, confidence, and that really helps your client have that readiness, right, to be able to work with you. So meaning you got to have the things in place that they can connect with you, right? It's important. Websites are not dead, right? You need to have a website. The website is like your home, it's like your front door when you're welcoming people to come work with you. They have to have a place to come to, right? Proposals, they have to have that discovery process. And this is why I love Design Files, because they really help us create this system that helps us to show up professional, right? Because I don't know about you, but I want to work with people who are very professional. So you want to make sure that you're creating these different pillars that's going to help you build that authority. All right, and I see some questions come in. I know we're going to have some time for questions at the end, so please keep them coming so that I can make sure that I address them at the end. Okay, so then the second step is automation. So automation is really about putting your business on repeat, okay? Basically creating automations around those tasks that's going to help your business run smoothly and give clients that consistent experience so that you can focus on the design stuff, right? The thing that we all do so well and that we enjoy doing and that we love. So here's what automation should look like. Okay. Now, I remember at the beginning, I asked if you guys have an automation system, and a lot of you said no, and I appreciate your honesty. So I want to show you what it does look like. So the first thing is that you have to have a lead capture and tracking system. So you have to have a clear pathway that collects leads from your social media sites, from your website, and even referrals, so that no one falls through the cracks. Okay. And I want you to imagine that maybe every lead is worth $20 million. Now that sounds absurd, but when you think about it that way, you will create a business that makes sure that no lead is left unturned. Okay. This is the top of your funnel. It is the most important step and process in your funnel, is having a lead capture and tracking system. The second step is automated nurture touch points. So this means that once you've captured a lead or someone's reached out to you, right, and they've inquired about your services, that you have a way to follow up with them. And that can look like email sequences. It can look like educational touch points. So maybe you're sharing information online, or you're warming them up and getting them ready to work with you. Okay. That's the second step. The third step is a project management system. So having things like templates and checklists and workflows that helps move your clients from inquiry, so from them reaching out to you on your website, all the way to working with you in a seamless process. Okay. So those are the three pillars. Now, as we're understanding what these three pillars are, there are some common marketing mistakes, right? So there's a couple, and I want to kind of go through them. And the reason why these are important to understand is that you really cannot scale what you don't measure. So there are some of you who may have a marketing system in place, but maybe you have not taken a look at what's working and what hasn't, right? So if you don't have a consistent system, then what happens is leads become unpredictable and then your growth will stall. Okay. So you don't have a consistent flow of leads coming into your business. Another area that I see, or mistakes that I see designers make, is ignoring your ideal client. Um, or missing opportunities to create conversations with them. So you might get them in as a lead and they may be sitting somewhere on your email list, but maybe you're not emailing them, right? Let's be honest. Say yes, type yes in the chat if you have an email list, right? You got people on the email list, but you haven't emailed them in the last 30 days. Okay, if you haven't emailed them in the last 30 days, just type a yes in the chat. Okay, we're going to change that. Another thing is that I see mistakes that are made is without monitoring campaigns or responses and conversions, and just kind of guessing to see, what's happened, right? You have to measure your responses and what's happening. One of the things that I do every single time I send an email out is the moment it sends, I go in and I look to see how many people actually did it send to off of my list, right? And then I wait a little bit and then I'll go in maybe in about an hour later and I'll see, okay, how many people open the email, right? And depending on what time of day it is, it helps me gauge, okay, well, maybe people are working, or maybe, it's the weekend, and maybe people are out. And then I'll check it again. And I'm always looking to see, what is the measurement? How did this email perform, right? And then I also go a little bit deeper and I'll look at and see, well, what did people click on when they opened the email? Did they go to my website? Did they, click on my portfolio, right? So you can track every behavior that your ideal clients make when you send out any type of marketing. And so I want you guys to get used to that. Another mistake is under leveraging authority proofs. So clients doubt credibility and opportunity ends up stalling. Okay. So again, remember I was talking about building that authority, right? So getting in front of your clients and partnering with people or networking and sharing, right, your proof so that your clients can build that confidence in you in working with you. And then last but not least is skipping follow-ups. Okay. There's this saying that I learned in working in sales and advertising, is that the fortune is in the follow-up. Okay. It's a saying by Jim Rohn. If you don't know who Jim Rohn is, look him up. And he says the fortune is in the follow-up. A lot of times, and this may be you, I was that person, I was that designer, that decorator who did this at a fault. I would get, a lead would come in on my website and I'd maybe take 2 days to follow up with them. Or I might get a client or a lead and have a consultation and they say, "Oh, we're not ready," or "My husband, hasn't decided yet," whatever the reason is, and they don't move forward. But then at the end they say, "Oh, well, let's talk in maybe about 6 months." And then maybe, that might be a better time. How many of you, if you're honest, if that's ever happened to you, never followed up, right? Do you know sometimes that is where the fortune is, in those opportunities? I can remember one time that happened and I said, "You know what? I am going to follow up." This client, we had a consultation. They paid for the consultation. I was charging about $450 for my consultations at the time, and went to the consultation. I just thought I had it in the bag. I knew the client was going to sign the contract and we're going to start working together. And she hit me with the, "Well, after thinking about it, I think we're going to hold off. There's some other things we need to spend our money on, get some things done in the house. But in about 3 months, we should be ready." Right. And like my heart sunk. I was like, "Oh, I just knew it. I knew this was going to be the client." And something told me, "Monique, follow up." And I said, "Okay, great." I said, 3 months. So what's a good date? And I scheduled a date with her that day to follow up. And on that day, 3 months later, I followed up. And when I called the client, potential client at the time, um, She said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you called." She was like, "I was just talking to my husband and we were just talking about how we're ready to get started." And she's like, "When can we schedule another session?" She's like, "I don't mind paying you. I know that, your time is important." And so we ended up scheduling another paid consultation. I went in, and long story short, that project was $120,000 project. Okay. Now, just imagine if I wouldn't have followed up, right? 3 months, right? Seems like a long time, but it is very true when they say the fortune is in the follow up. And it was such a wonderful project that I had the chance to work on. So make sure that you are following up. Okay, so I want to kind of dive into some case studies and some testimonials of projects that I've worked on for some of my coaching clients and helped them really create these transformations in their business. So I want to introduce you to Faye Sewell. She is the founder of Simplicity Interiors. And when she came to me and we started working together, she was a real estate agent, a very successful real estate agent at that. She was also a consultant and a home designer. She's a designer. She was out of the state of Georgia, and her challenge was that she had these different businesses, but she didn't really know how to integrate them and create a system that attract her ideal client. And so we spent about a year together. And after the course or over the course of working together, I was able to work with her and help her create a new suite of services that specialize in attracting her ideal client, and also creating a new brand for herself, right? Because remember, it's about the attraction, building that authority, right? Which is building your brand presence and then creating the marketing system. So we kind of had to like re engineer her entire business model. And so, how we ended up doing that was developing, again, like I said, that new suite of services. We created a 30-day email automation system that introduced her new service offerings and that really spoke to every client at every stage that they were in, right? Because she was a real estate agent. So she would, work with them as they were moving. And then she had some moving services. And then once they were in their new home that she helped them get, she would help them design their home, right? So they kind of went through this life cycle process. And what we did was we created and crafted messaging that spoke to her ideal client at every single stage. So it was like she was building a marriage with them and, working with them and supporting them at every single step of their life cycle. And so as a result, we ended up building and designing a brand new uh, portfolio and brand presence for her. We developed a brand new website. We designed her website, which is called Simplicity Interiors. This is actually the about page. Here's her color palettes that we developed. And then we also did like a mood board. We did all her logos, like a complete brand rehaul. And then like I mentioned, one of the most important things is creating that portfolio. So we created a portfolio that really showcased her work, right? So that when clients signed on to work with her, they understood and they were confident that she was going to help take them through their entire process of buying that new home, uh, moving into that new home, and then creating the home that they truly absolutely love. Okay. Then I want you to meet Shantae Bacon. So this is another client that I had the opportunity and privilege to work with. She's the founder of Shantae Bacon Enterprises. And when I started working with Shantae, she is a powerhouse in her own right. She didn't really have an issue with building the authority part. Her challenge was building the system and attracting a whole new audience. She's very well known in the PR industry. She built a multi-million dollar PR agency working for Google and Discovery and VH1 and a lot of top name brands that we all know and love and use. But the challenge she had was she was creating a new business, a coaching business, and she had to tap into a whole new audience. And so what we did was we leveraged her current audience and created this new authority that presented her to her new audience. So we took, she had a email list of 20,000 emails, and we leveraged that and we created a whole new marketing communication strategy that helped to communicate her new services and her new brand to her new audience. And we had some really great responses. As you can kind of see, we had 97% delivery rate, which is amazing. We had a 34% open rate. So this is all about measuring their performance, right? So people were opening her emails because we leveraged her existing audience that she already had, and just started to communicate to them and share with them her new service offerings. We ended up, that campaign performed and had a 5% click-through rate. And then we saw a 1.3 conversion rate. And that was just from the very start. And so from the launch, we launched a new community. And just from the first 24 hours, we had 26 purchases, okay, of memberships that turn into potential clients. So again, this is all about measuring and seeing what works. And then to kind of bring everything home, we also designed her a brand new website, again, to create that place where her clients could come and connect with her. And one of the things that we were very strategic about was creating lead magnets, right? So remember at the beginning when I first started sharing, I said one of the most important things is creating that lead capture. So we did that in a couple of ways. What we did was we created a quiz that people could fill out to understand what their visibility score was. So how visible are they to their existing audience? We also created a position for profit playbook. We created a lead magnet that's on her site as like a pop-up that allows them to download her. It's called a pocket guide, and it gives them 8 visibility mistakes that keeps people unseen and unpaid. And they can get that for free by just putting their name and their email address. And then last but not least, we created a social media strategy so that she can start to share her credibility and all of the work that she's done with clients and her new offerings, right? So again, it's about creating that lead capture, that authority, the visibility, and then also creating the automation, right? So that three-step process is what really helps drive the needle and take the business to the next level. Okay. So again, we created this pocket guide and it was a huge hit. And as a result, now you can actually visit her website. It's shantebacon.com. And there's multiple ways that she can capture leads and grow her business. And her business is doing amazing. So shout out to Shante Bacon. All right. So that's just, those are just a couple of examples of how I've had the opportunity to kind of transform people's businesses using this strategy. So, this strategy works, right? So let's take a look at this system in action. So how can you apply what we're talking about today to your interior design business? So first, again, visibility, right? You want to create the visibility. So you want to make sure that your brand is discoverable in the right places, exactly where your target audience is. So I want you to think about, where does your audience hang out? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Right? One of the discoveries that I had was when I was building my interior design decorating business, was that most of my clients were very educated, very affluent, and they were professionals, right? And most of them were single. They were not family. They weren't, they didn't have children. They weren't moms. It was like the single, 6-7 figure CEO. That was my ideal client. And because I understood who she was, ironically, I spent a lot of my efforts on social media on LinkedIn, not necessarily on Instagram. I don't even think I remember getting on Instagram until maybe like 10 years later. because that's just where my audience wasn't there. So that's just an example of getting really clear on where your audience is, because then that will help you to know where to show up. Okay. The next step is connection. So once you get in front of your audience, you have to connect, right? It's kind of like going to a party, right? You don't want to go to a party and then go stand in the back of the room, right? You'll never meet anybody, you won't enjoy yourself, right? So you have to get good at connecting. And that helps build that trust and that authority. So you want to think about, okay, how can I show up, right? How can you share things on social media? How can you email your existing list that you might have to start connecting? And then once you connect, then you can start to focus on what we call conversion. So that's basically talking to your clients after you've connected with them, or potential clients, and getting them to take the next step, book a consultation with you, right? Sharing your process and your pricing to get them to move to the next level, right? To convert, right? And then the next step is retention. So once you've converted them, they've signed your design project contract, you're working together, then it's all about retaining them. So you guys know that when you do a great job and working with the client and designing their home, or their project, people like to share that. And so the moment they go share and tell their neighbor or tell their coworker, guess what? Now you have potentially gotten a new client, right? So you want to make sure that you're always generating referrals, asking your clients, hey, is there anyone, that may be looking to hire a designer or looking for help with designing their home, right? Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Okay. So communicating and retaining those clients, and also asking for testimonials, okay? Asking for feedback so that you can share their experiences with other potential clients. And then last but not least is scaling, right? Because once you've gotten visibility through retention mastered, the last thing is just scaling. And all you're doing is you're rinsing and repeating the process, okay? All right. So those are the kind of the steps that I want you to focus on. Now, this is another visual of this, and to keep it simple. So there's 1 through 5 steps. So the first step is creating that lead capture. Okay. So collecting inquiries on your website through forms or some type of freebie that you might give them. It could be, your top decorating tips, right? So think of something that your ideal client wants and give it to them for free in exchange for their information. And you only need their first name and their email address, okay, to build your email list. And then once you've got the lead capture and you're getting leads in, then you want to create a welcome sequence. Remember, you have to connect with them. So you want to create a sequence where the moment that they fill out that form on your website, they get an automated email to say, thank you so much for visiting me online. I'd love to stay connected with you, right? And then think about how you can take them through your journey in working with you, okay? And then once they become a client, right? If you did step 1 and step 2, right? The likelihood of them becoming a client really skyrockets, right? And so once they become that client, now you have to nurture them. You have to take them through your onboarding process. So this is where you build that trust and that confidence, where you're sharing what your process is, right? You're sharing timelines, you're guiding them through each step of your process. Once you do that, you've, I'm sure, successfully done an amazing job at designing or decorating their home. And now it's time to offboard them. So the same way you spent time onboarding them, you're going to offboard them. You're going to send them a thank you note. You're going to request their feedback or a testimonial, right? And you're going to stay in contact with them so that they have an amazing experience with you. And then last but not least, the last step is the nurture sequence, step 5. And this is where this creates an engaging experience where you keep them engaged. You might, send them emails once a month that gives them tips on how to continue to enjoy their home, or seasonal insights, things like that. Okay. So this is kind of your system. So if you didn't have a system when you first started, this is it. This is the blueprint. Okay. Now, let's look at this from a map perspective. So again, lead capture, which is step one right here. This is where you're going to get that lead on your website or, some type of inquiry form. And the tools that you can use for this, I love Wix. Wix is a platform that allows you to capture leads through forms. Keep is another platform, Google Forms integration, Zapier, things like that. Now, once you capture that lead, you're going to have that discovery call. So you're going to have like an automated email that might invite them to book a consultation or a discovery call, right? And you can use tools like Calendly or Gmail automation. Okay. The third step, once you're coming around the corner, is the welcome sequence. So you're going to welcome them into your process and thank them for getting to know you and connecting. The fourth step is you're going to put them into that nurture sequence, right? So after the discovery call, the lead can convert to hopefully a paying client, right? And you can use tools like Wix or MailChimp to do that. And then the fifth step, once they become a client, okay, is the onboarding process. So once your client says yes to your workflow and working with you, they've signed the contract, then you're going to onboard them. And this is where Design Files comes in. This is where you can leverage all of the invoicing and the workflows and the design boards, right? And you're taking them through your design process. Okay. And then step 5 is your project workflow. So this is where you are managing the project, right? You are sending them weekly emails like say, hey, your products came in. You're reminding them on what's the next step. Okay. So they feel like they are a part of your process and they're never worried. They have the ultimate confidence in you. And I'm going to tell you, when people believe and they are confident in working with you and they know you've got it handled, they will write you a blank check. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. Like people want to work with people that they trust and they can feel confident because a money exchange and what we do, we don't, the work that we do is very valuable and attached to it is a price tag, right? It's not cheap all the time depending on what type of design you do, right? It could be costly for our clients and it's an investment for them. So they have to feel like they can trust you. And creating this system is what creates that for them. And it's what creates profitability in your business as a result. So, this project workflow is wonderful because it helps them feel safe. It helps them want to invest more and more and more because they believe that you're going to deliver and over deliver on what you've promised. Okay. And then the final step as you come down is the offboarding process. So I used to have a process, for example, where, once we finished the project, immediately they'd get an email saying, thank you so much for working with me. Please, and I would make it very simple. I used a tool that allowed them to just answer a few questions, and then it would automatically create a testimonial for them. Okay. So make it simple for them to share their feedback with you. Okay. Now, this is the mapping workflow. So hopefully this gives you a visual of what your system should look like. Okay. Now put in the chat if you're still with me, and if you have even a couple of these, if you have all, let's see, if you have all 7 steps, type a number 7 in the chat. If you've got 3, 5, 4, 1, um, put the number of steps that you have in the chat. I just want to kind of see where people are. So just moving on, as we just went through that workflow, that map flow, I want to share with you a couple of tools that can help you as you build your system out and you navigate through that platform. Okay, great. I see some 5s. I see some 4s. Okay, not automated. That's okay. All right, 5. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, I see a 1. That's all right, Krista. We're going to get you to having all 7. Okay, all right. So now that we've learned what the process is, right, to create this system, Now let's talk about what are the tools that are going to help you manage the system. Okay. Now I am biased, but I love Wix. I have been coaching and using Wix since the inception of my business. And so Wix I love because it is an all-in-one CRM system. So you can have your website on there, you can have uh, book your consultations. It has a booking calendar on there. You can sell your services. You can um, do all of your email marketing. You can do your social media marketing. It is very robust. Okay. And it's very user friendly. It's easy to use. And it helps keep your costs down. So I am also an advocate of running a lean business. Okay. Because again, we are in business to make money. We are in business to create the lives that we want, right? We are not doing this as a hobby. Okay. So that means that you have to be mindful of your costs, your overhead costs. And so I love Wix because it does provide that all in one system. So you're not paying for all of these different systems to run your business. Okay. Because it can get very expensive. So Wix you can use to do all the things like automate your emails, create your lead forms, your websites, all of that. MailChimp is another option. I know some people like MailChimp, so that is another option that I can confidently say I've used and I can vouch for. And then when it comes to Notion, Notion is a project management system. And so it can work hand in hand with design files where it just kind of helps you keep your task and things like that in order and keeping workflows and things like that. But it's more for like an internal team. So if you have team members that that's helps you with your design projects, it helps kind of keep everyone organized. Okay. And then here's some systems to help you manage your marketing automation. So ManyChat, which maybe some of you have heard of, is a great tool. It does allow you to create automated responses. So let's just say you are sharing a recent design project on Instagram or Facebook, and you want to you're sharing the portfolio and the pictures are amazing, and you have a caption or a call to action at the bottom that says, hey, if you are looking to hire a designer to get some help with transforming or designing your home, comment design, right? And then when they comment design, it'll automatically send them a message, and it could send them to your website to fill out your form, or maybe book a consultation or discovery call. Okay. So it's great because it automates all of that. You're not doing that manually. You're not automatically answering posts and DMs, okay, which can be very time consuming. Next, you have Meta, Facebook ads. So I'm not going to get into this in detail, but running ads to promote your business is a great way to get in front of millions of people who are not in your immediate network, right? So marketing and advertising are two different things. Marketing is marketing and speaking to people who are in your existing network. Advertising helps you to market and talk to and speak to people who don't know anything about you, okay? So it just helps you open up your audience. And then Canva, last but not least, is one of my favorites. It does help you to create different marketing visuals for your business. So if you want to, create posters or flyers, posts for social media, logos, all those good things, it does help you to create those things. Okay. And then two more, interact quiz. So if you want to create a quiz, this is a great tool to use. I use it even to this day for my coaching business. But it's great because you can kind of see where people are. You can create a quiz. Let's just say, what's your design style, right? I know that you can do that through design files as well. And then what's great about this is that you can capture leads in this way. Okay. So I know with design files, it's a great once you've actually gotten the lead and you've gotten the client. But Interact is kind of cool because it'll help you to get a feeler out and attract more of your ideal client for people who are trying to figure out what their style is. And it's a great way for you to capture that lead. Okay. And then last but absolutely not least, Design Files. It's your all-in-one design management tool, right? We all know, we're familiar with it. I use Design Files even now, and definitely when I was running my interior decorating business, and it was the livelihood of my business, right? I did all my mood boards, all my communications, everything on that tool, and it's wonderful. So keep using Design Files because it does help you manage your business. All right. So, as we're wrapping up, I wanted to give you just some insight on the lead capture form, because that's, as I mentioned, is the top of your funnel. And I know there's always questions. I always get questions of, okay, well, what questions should I include on my form, right? Do I need to have a lot of questions or just a couple? And so, from a design perspective, you definitely want to have their full name, okay? Because you want to make sure you get their first and last name. You need to capture their email address so that you can continue to market to them. Another good question is to ask what type of project type or service they're interested in. This helps you to know, have they actually taken the time to know and look around on your website to see what services you offer? And it helps you to understand when you get that form in, what are they looking for? Like, what are they interested in? Location is also very good, helpful. It can help filter out projects outside of your service area that maybe just not be it might not be a good fit. And you can create an email automation that if someone, chooses a location outside of your area, you can set up where it triggers an email to go out to them to say, hey, thank you so much for submitting your inquiry. Unfortunately, you're out of my service area, but here's some other designers that I can recommend you to that might be a better fit, right? So it just, again, it helps streamline your business and not cause you to spend time on following up on leads that just are not going to be the right fit. Another one question is budget range, right? So again, this could be a qualifier where it helps you to make sure that they're aligned with who your ideal client is before you even have a conversation with them. Okay. The ideal start date and timeline. So this kind of helps set those clear expectations in scheduling. And then a one that I love, and I think every form should have, is how did they find you? Right. This helps you in tracking and measuring your marketing channels to see where are your leads coming from. Did they find you on social media? Did they, was it through a referral, through a friend? It just helps you to kind of see what's working in your marketing efforts. All right, so this is another quick snapshot of how to build your simple workflow. So it's exactly what we just covered, the 7 steps. So lead form needs to be submitted. So you need to have that on your website. Then you want to schedule a discovery call so that you can qualify the lead to see if they are the right fit, right? They're your ideal client. You can send out a short pre-call questionnaire that qualifies them. I used to do this so that if they're not qualified or they're not the ideal client, I can always automate to send them an email again to say, hey, based on kind of what you're looking for, I might not be the perfect fit, but then I would point them into a different direction or provide a different resource for them. Okay. And then the next step, third step, is booking the consultation. Okay. So you can do this where once they send the inquiry, if they are the right fit, you can have an email automated that's sent to them with your booking link to say, hey, and then I used to use Wix and I use Calendly as well. And I had it built in with Calendly at the time, and Wix can do this too, where they can book the consultation and they can pay for the consultation right then and there. You can also use design files where you can set up a service and just include the link in the email to your consultation, and then they just book it right on your design files site. So there's a couple of ways you can do it, but you want to get that consultation booked. Okay. And then the fourth step is having them sign the contract. Okay. You have to have them sign a contract. Okay. Can't do business without a contract. So making sure that can be automated and you can send that out to them, have them sign it. There's a lot of great tools for that. Obviously, Design Files is one of them where you can just have that automatically sent to them. Project started. So fifth step is starting the project. So this is where you're going to start to send those process emails that's going to update them every week. Hey, this is where we are. This is the stage that we're in. Okay. And you can use Design Files to support you so that as you're moving them through your workflow on Design Files, you can have those emails being sent to them. And then once the project is completed, which is step 6, then you're going to deliver the final presentation. You're going to install, do complete the install, and then you're going to move to step 7, which is sending out that email that's going to request their testimonial and their feedback. Okay, so this is another way to look at it that can give you a step-by-step plan on what to do and how to build your workflow. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful. As next steps, I always like to give you the big picture, right? So this webinar was all about like creating this marketing system and helping you figure out where you are in your business, what things you have or what you don't have, right? And where you need to fill in the gaps, right? And so this is what I have dedicated my entire life. I mean, I've been teaching for a long time in different capacities, but I love teaching and coaching designers and decorators like yourself through the employee to designer journey. So just like the journey I just showed you guys in creating your marketing system, I have a journey that I take my coaching clients through, and it's called the employee to designer journey. It is a 4-phase process. And so whether you are in the transition phase, which just means maybe, you're working a job and you are running your business at the same time and you're, trying to grow the business so you can leave the job. That's the transition phase, right? And you can start building this marketing system right now, right? Even if you're in the transition phase. The second phase that a lot of designers that I work with are in is what I would call the build phase. So maybe you are building your business. So you've left your job, you have your full-time design business, but you're building, right? You're identifying your ideal clients, you are creating your services, maybe you're revamping your services, and you're in this phase where you're setting up your systems, which is what we've learned about today. Okay, that's the build phase. And it's a very fun phase to be in because you get the opportunity to build the business that's going to set you up for the rest of your life, right? There is such beauty in automation. And so this is why I am so happy and excited that I get to share this with you guys today, because this is going to change the trajectory of your business if you do this, okay? If you implement this marketing system that you learned today. So some of you may be in this build phase, okay? And then there's some of you on this webinar that may be in the grow phase, which is the third phase. And this is all about optimizing. So maybe you have your system or a good portion of your system built, right? And I saw some 5s, I saw some 6s. So some of you have their system already built. But maybe you're like, okay, I need to optimize my marketing. I have my system in place, but I need to maybe, create some more email sequences, or maybe I need to do some more PR and advertising. Maybe you've never run a Facebook ad. Maybe all you've been doing is social media marketing, and now you've got to kind of put a little bit more effort into your marketing. Okay. No matter where you are, the grow phase is about growth, right? It's about taking your business to the next level and optimizing what you've already built. Okay. So this is a phase that I coach designers in helping them get through that phase. And then the fourth phase is what I call the scale phase. And this is usually where you are more of a seasoned designer. You've probably been in business for at least 5 to 10 years. You've, hit 6 figures consistently. And your challenge is not necessarily your system isn't working. You have a system that's built, but it's not it's not optimized to the point where you can actually step away from your business. So some of you on this call may be generating six figures right now in your business, but you want to make seven figures. And you want to be able to make seven figures with ease. And you want to be able to step away and go on vacation. Or maybe you want to hand your business down to your children. Or maybe you want to retire in the next couple of years. Okay. I'm retired now. And this is all I do. This is the work that I do is I coach designers how to grow, scale a 6 and 7 figure business, right? So sometimes it's you're in transition. You're transitioning into another phase of your life. And so no matter where you are in this journey, what you've learned today can help you. And I hope that this has helped you to think about where you are in your business and how you can implement some of these things. Now, I have some tools that I want to share with you that can help you as you are going through whatever phase you're in, whether you're in transition, build, grow, or the scale phase. And that's joining a community. So we have a community called the Designers Den Community. It's an elite community, and it's where you get to be a part of a community of other designers who are in one of those four phases. And I come in and I share weekly and monthly accountability tips, trainings. I do bi-monthly coaching calls where you can ask me questions live. And I do trainings like this to kind of help you grow your business on a deeper scale. There's a ton of resources when you become a member of the community. And the beauty I love is that you're around like-minded designers, right? People who are going through the same challenges, and we're sharing wins and we're sharing tips. So it's a great community. And if you feel like you're kind of on an island and you need some additional support, I want to encourage you and invite you to join. Okay. So some of the key takeaways from today is that I want to leave you with is that sustainable growth in your design business really comes from treating your marketing like a system and not an activity. So I want to encourage you to get out of feeling like it's a daily task that you've got to do the marketing, you got to send the emails, right? When you build the system, your life will get easier. Your business is going to get easier and it's going to become more profitable because the systems are going to be working for you. Okay. And so I want you to treat it like a system and not an activity. And then when you define who you serve, right, getting clear on who your ideal client is, communicating your value clearly with authority, right, because you've learned how to build that authority today, and then automating that process. What happens is you're going to create a predictable demand, consistent workflow that brings in those clients for long-term profitability. Okay. And this is absolutely doable. And I hope that today I have shared with you a very clear plan that you can take and run with and execute into your business. So I know that starting a marketing system and a lot of what we've talked about today may seem overwhelming right now, but I promise you, don't worry. Um, I've got some resources for you and it's going to be okay, right? You've got the tools. Okay. So I'm going to open it up for some questions. But before I do want to share some tools with you. I do have a quiz. Like I mentioned earlier, I use Interact, and I have a quiz that helps you figure out where you are in those four phases that I talked about: the transition, build, grow, or scale phase. Now, you may know where you are, but I want to invite you to take the quiz. It's free. You can find it on my website at MoniqueNicole.co. And it's going to help you to figure out where you are. And then after you complete the quiz, it gives you a free PDF guide that gives you a summary of where you are and then how to master that phase and move to the next phase. Okay. And it's going to give you some tips on what we've learned today as well. Okay. And then I also have a podcast. So if you like what you heard today and you're like, oh, I want to learn more about marketing and how to grow my business, I'd love to have you join the podcast. You can subscribe. I'm on YouTube as well as all of your streaming platforms. It's called the Employee to Designer podcast. And so I'd love to invite you to join me and listen in. I post usually try to post like once a week or every 2 weeks a new episode. But we've got a library of episodes that you can catch up on if you are new to the podcast. So I'd love to connect with you there. All right, so that is that is it.
Yay, awesome. Thank you so
I know
much. I
we
feel
went
like
over a
this
little
is,
bit.
yeah, that's okay. Do you have like 5 more minutes to, I picked a few
Absolutely.
questions
Yep.
from the chat. Yeah, I was just
Nope.
going to say, I feel like that was a super valuable presentation. I think it's going to be one that people can return to, save, and, return to as you're kind of like building these things out. So thank you so much for that. And guys, yeah, definitely go check out Monique Nicole's quiz. That's like such a great place to get started. We can actually so that people kind of don't forget. Let's see,
Sure.
we can leave that up for right now.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the questions was, how do you create a Google profile for virtual e-design?
Okay. Well, it's actually the same. No matter what type of business you have, you would just go on Google and you click on. If you've ever noticed on Google, they have like it's like a little square and it has a whole bunch of little dots. You click on that, and then you'll see it'll say Google. I think it's Google. Google Business or My Business, and you click on that, and it'll allow you to set up a profile. And it's going to ask you some questions like the name of your business, if you are if you have a storefront, if you have an e-design business, I don't recommend you putting your address, okay, unless you have a not a PO box. You can't put a PO box, but you can put what I used to use was a UPS allows you to actually get a street address. But it goes to, you can get your mail delivered to their UPS location, but it is a actual physical address. And Google will accept that.
Okay, very cool.
You can do that.
And then do you recommend to schedule a follow-up to leads if it's been 6 months or more?
Yeah. I
Still
mean,
that long. Yeah, still go for it.
absolutely. The fortune is in the follow-up. So
Yeah.
you might have to change your approach a little bit and just say, hey, life's got busy, but I haven't forgotten about you. I would love to, reconnect. But absolutely never give up on a lead because you just
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, love it. And then somebody was asking, do you need to get permission to email people? So I'm guessing this is kind of like where, when you have like the quiz, like I love how you mentioned Interact, which is a great tool, where you have like a quiz, you have these lead magnets. I think there's kind of something within the fine print that it's like you are allowed to email them. Like,
Yes. So the great thing about if you are building a list, like say for example, you're using Interact, right? Because they have opted in to take the quiz, that gives you permission to, once they complete the quiz and they've entered their name and their email address, the way Interact works is they kind of keep a record, an Excel sheet of the leads and their contacts. But because they've opted in already, then you have permission by default to email them.
nice.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then another question was, can you be more specific on the process you used for wrap up, where you captured the questions that turned into a testimonial?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it's so funny. I was looking for that tool that I use and I couldn't find it in time, but I'll share it with you so you can share with the community afterwards.
Okay.
Or I'll pop it into the group. But yeah, there's a tool where you send them the link. It's like a link you send them, and they just fill out a couple things, and it automatically creates. So instead of them having to write a testimonial, because a lot of times clients don't have the time and they don't want to write a paragraph and send you an email back of what
Yeah.
that's work for them, right? You can have them fill out, like it's like a link you send them, and it actually allows them to fill out just a couple of like one question across all of your like your social platforms, and it accumulates their feedback. So it just makes it
Okay.
easier for the client. I
Is it
can't remember the name
Senja?
of the company, huh?
Senja or Ask Nicely? I was just trying to Google like what you were talking about, and I'm getting
Yeah.
Senja,
I have
Ask
it saved in my
Nicely. Okay,
I
fill
old
out,
book.
nothing like that.
Yeah, I
Fandom.
can't remember off the top of my
Okay,
head.
okay.
I will find it,
But
and
something where it's making it easier for them, like it's asking specific questions and they just fill that out.
mhm. Yep.
Okay, that's really smart. We actually did something like that with Design Files where it was like a video version where it
Mhm.
was like
I
it
remember that.
prompted you. Yeah, where it like prompted our designers to like answer in a video to the
Mhm.
questions that were showing up. So then we got these like really cool video testimonials. I mean, I'm sure designers could benefit from something like that as well, whether you wanted to do a written one or a video one.
Mhm.
Seems like really cool tools. Okay, so let's just take one more question. This last question here, what is the right pace for sending email content without it feeling spammy and annoying, but still maintaining regular touches?
Yeah. That's a great question. So it depends on what you're sending. If you are selling in your email, I would say like once a week. Um, you know, no more than that. If you are sharing valuable information, people love to share to get information, free tips, free information. So I would say no less or no more than every 2 days. Okay.
Mhm.
Every 2 days. I would say between every 2 to 4 days. Um, if you're just sharing information, valuable information to them.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, thank you so much. I am just gonna pop like your site back on here one more time. So everybody remembers, go check out Monique Nicole's website and follow her. Thank you so much for presenting such awesome information to our community today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is like home for me. So thank you for having me. And I hope you all got a lot of value out of this and are going to go and implement this
Yeah,
workflow. Yeah.
yes, do it. Okay, guys, we will see you next month for another live workshop. Bye, everybody.
Bye.